do, sir. Talk to me about the working class. I think we can all agree the working class voters have historically been a Democratic stronghold. But until the last election, when either they voted for MAGA or they stayed home. Yeah. Trump dominated issues on like trade, immigration, no taxes on tips, that sort of a thing. Do you think that Democrats have lost touch with the working class voters? And do you have any suggestions as to how they could potentially start to remedy that?
Yeah, what I don't think is that we should change the fundamental policies of the Democratic Party to move to the right to try to address this. The problem in the last election was messaging. Honestly, we have the right position. I'll give you an example. We're for raising the minimum wage. $7.25, $14,000 a year is the federal minimum wage. It is not sustainable. Nobody can live on that anymore.
Correct.
Right? In my state, we raised the minimum wage to $15.
Good for
Now,
you.
we ought to do that nationally. And that's a Democratic position. Republican position, they're not in favor of raising it. In fact, many of them would like to do away with the minimum wage altogether.
Yeah.
That is an issue on which you can win an election. And that's just one, right? There are several. How about Medicaid? How about health care across the board? Right? In my state, we did away with prior authorizations for mental health care, for example, right? When you're in crisis.
You should just have access to it.
You shouldn't have to pick up the phone and call your insurance company to say, you know, I have a real crisis. Can I get authorized to get medical care? That shouldn't be. And so we did away with that. There's no prior authorization. 72 hours you have, you can get whatever services you need to deal with that problem. By the way, we've got to stand up for the most vulnerable people in our society. And to me, the Democratic Party has always stood for that. We're going to continue to stand for that.
To get that out there, though.
But we need to make sure that we don't go down the rabbit holes that the Republicans set for us, right? That we've got to go talk about all these other, what are issues that affect very small numbers of people. We should stand up for them. By the way, it's cruel to go after the smallest minorities, right? To be viciously attacking them.
Yes, that's what they do.
And that's why it's an instinct by Democrats to stand up and say, that's wrong. Because we're the party of civil rights. And so we're going to stand up for people who need it. But we tend to bite at every one of these things. And we've got to make sure that we're broadly talking about the economic issues that are affecting people's daily lives.
Well, let me ask you this, Governor. I mean, we touched upon it a little bit. There have been a lot of Republican voters at these town halls, and you see their anger, you see their rage about Trump's executive order, executive overreach, giving the Elon Musk, the unelected person, so much power. Are Trump supporters, you think, having voters' remorse? Because you said the prices at the grocery store are going up because democracy is being taken away. Egg prices are set to rise actually by 40% now.
Explain that.
Well, because, look, you think Elon Musk goes and buys eggs at the grocery store?
No.
No, he has no idea what's happening, right? Your tomato prices are going up because we're going to pay 25% tariffs on tomatoes coming from Mexico.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is just an example, but it's people who've been put in charge, right? They're the most powerful, the wealthiest people have been put in charge, and they're unelected. They don't understand. They didn't get elected by everyday Americans to do anything. They just got appointed by Donald Trump because they gave huge contributions. In the case of Elon Musk, $250 million that we know of that he gave to him. So, he bought his way in, and Donald Trump basically has handed the government over to this guy. And so, that's what's happening. I mean, that democracy, the fact that they're taking away your democratic rights, you voted for your representatives thinking that they're going to go stand up for you and the things that matter to you and make life more affordable for you and a little bit easier. And instead, what you get is Elon Musk making decisions for you, and he didn't get elected to anything, and you probably don't want him running the country.
We don't.
No. Well, Governor, if I could ask you, you're highly impressive, and I think you talk like a straight shooter. You've always been at the top of my list of someone who could run for president in 2028. I'm not going to ask you now to agree to that. But when you talk privately with Democrats, a concern is he's a white billionaire. And then another fellow governor of yours I love, Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania, they say, well, he's a Jewish guy. Have Democrats gone too far with identity? Representation we love, but with identity, that you can't elect the most qualified person if he's a white billionaire or the most qualified person if he's a Jewish governor?
Here's what
Sounds
matters.
more like racism than anything else.
Yeah, but that is something that comes up.
Yeah.
I think here's what matters, and I think the way we ought to be judging people is not by how much money they made or what their ethnic background is or their religion. Those aren't the things. I think it's, what experiences have they had in their lives that give them some compassion and empathy. I want to, I think about my mother. My father passed away when I was 7, my mother when I was 17. She was an alcoholic from my age 7 to age 17. And she was, honestly, she's my hero. Yeah. Why? She was a widow with 3 young children. She fought alcoholism, for 10 years until it killed her. And, but she was somebody who, when she was sober, she was an activist on behalf of the LGBTQ plus community. She was an activist on behalf of reproductive rights. And I was the youngest kid, so there, nobody was, when my brother and sister as teenagers were out playing with their friends, my mother would take me with her to the marches, to the meetings. And I can tell you that I think the experience of that taught me some compassion. It taught me to stand up for people who sometimes don't have any power. It's why I got involved in early childhood development. The kids who need early childhood most, the kids who need Head Start and childcare and so on most, are the kids who come from the poorest neighborhoods, right? The parents who need it the most come from the poorest neighborhoods. They can go to work if they have someplace safe to put their child.
You provide it for free in your program.
Indeed.
I congratulate you for that.
Thank you very much.
I have to go, but what you're really talking about is empathy. And I see that there's a drastic lack of it right now in government with a lot of people who are in positions of power. And that is a dangerous thing.
Kindness matters a lot.
Kindness and empathy.
Matters a lot.
And I thank you very much for coming here. I hope that you'll come again.
Appreciate it.
Our thanks to Governor Pritzker.